shield it from the wind and stab it deep through the night. Adorable, through pain its wound illuminates the darkness, transforms my present into future dearer than my soul, and I shall forget as arise me.
Greetings everyone, and welcome to the JPO Family Program broadcast. In these difficult times, we urge you all to stay home and stay safe. A gentle reminder, if you have any questions to ask our guest tonight, do type them in the Q&A section below. First, allow me to start off with the guest introduction. He is a composer from Bahrain who graduated with a bachelor's and a master's degree in composition in the Cairo Conservatoire, and his PhD in composition was obtained from the University of Bristol. He founded Bahrain International Music Festival in 1992 and taught the Fundamentals of Music course at the University of Bahrain. He also participated as a composer in the 5th and 6th Arab Perspectives, the new generation, at Cairo Opera House in 2006 and 2007. His work has been played in Egypt, Syria, UK, Kuwait, and Hong Kong. He has also released several albums, including Wind Notes, which combines several compositions written for woodwind instruments, and he is currently working on releasing songs for female voice and piano. Well, without further ado, let us welcome today's guest, Mr. Esam Aljawder.
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much. And thanks also for anyone who is watching us right now.
All right. Firstly, can you please explain regarding the video that was played just now?
Yes. These works, I composed it in different times. The first piece was written for clarinet and string orchestra, which was in 1989. Then there is a Rhapsody for violin and piano, and Endearment for violin and piano, and the song Your Eyes. And of course, there is also the CD, which entitled Wind Notes. So all the works in this CD are for wind instruments.
All right. I listened to the first song. It was exceptional. Can you please tell us more about the piece, which was the first song, Chatter on the Musical Scale?
The Chatter on the Musical Scale, I meant this title because it was first work in my region, in Gulf region, in particular, which has been written in a way not confined with the scales, which only uses 7 notes. I wrote it, what I meant at that time, to use all the 12 notes, without in particular in one specific scale. I know this is something in Western music, particularly in Europe, is something they have too many works that have been written from the beginning of the 20th century, but in our region, this is something was the first time to write. I want to encourage composers in Bahrain and other Arab countries to liberate themselves from the scale and write freely with all 12 notes.
All right, that's actually very interesting. And also, it was mentioned in the introduction that you have composed many pieces, and there was one also named Rhapsody. And
Yeah.
how did that name come about? How do you come up with the name of that piece?
Yeah. Rhapsody. I wrote it in 1996 during my studying in Cairo Conservatoire at the time. At the time, there I was impressed, and I mean, sorry, I immersed myself in reading about free form, like Rhapsody, Capriccio, Intermezzo, fantasy, romance, also ballad. All this they call free form. Some writers they call them indefinite form. And while I was searching, I discovered that there's contradiction in
Mm,
this finishes in the books because all these forms is, are free form. And once all of them free forms, why we are using different names like Rhapsody and Capriccio? Then some books said this form it's not about organizing music sections or phrases. It's about the character or the style or the mood of the piece. And for instance, the Rhapsody, suppose the character of the Rhapsody patriotic music. But I think all the music, any piece, usually not confined with one mood. Usually, each piece has different moods. Otherwise, it could be static. So I'm not convinced with this, and I think this is interesting subject to study. Actually, I wrote my dissertation in master degrees is about the freeform, and I symbolize this idea by analyzing all short piano pieces had been written by Johann Brahms, like Rhapsody and Intermezzo and Capriccio. And by the way, even Brahms, one of his Rhapsodies, he first called it Capriccio, and then he changed it into Rhapsody. That means even composer like Brahms, he's not sure about what does it mean Rhapsody. And the ballad, four ballads, opus 10, the third ballad, it's written in a bracket, intermezzo. So this confusing need to, particularly for the composers, be aware when they are choosing which form they are going to write their chorus or their melody.
I see. And what inspires your music? Where does your music come from?
But again,
I mean that what inspires your music? Are there some places or are there composers?
patriotic, I mean national music, something related to
Mm,
country, something try to express something that you are proud of your country. This is what means.
And also, how do you think that composers should name their music? What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
I think this is a very important issue because sometimes listeners uh, listen to music, but they are trying to make a relation between what they heard and the title. But sometimes they fail to make a connection between uh, both of music and the title. There is two ways of giving a title for any piece of music. It is the way that a poetic style, which is any composer can freely choose any poetic sentence or word that he thinks it reflects his music or her music. And the other way that you choose name of the form, like you are writing symphony number 3 or symphony number 4 or sonata number 23, something like this. You are choosing name of a form. And this thing, I think that any composer should be aware that names are the definition of this form are changes during the time. For instance, symphony, which is originally from Greek, it means that any instruments playing together, this is symphony, just playing together. But in the classical era, it meant something, a symphony that encompasses 3 movements. And the first movement should be in the sonata form and so on. So now became a different, and most of the still people now, they are adapting the classical interpretation for the symphony. But even there are some composers like Schubert, the unfinished symphony, his symphony is contain only 2 movements, or Berlioz, his fantasy symphony contains of 5 movements. Stravinsky symphony in 3 movements, and so on. And it is not just about how many movements the symphony is changing. Also, the structure of the symphony has been changed. For instance, Peter Maxwell Davies, British composer, he wrote too many symphonies. One of them, I have watched one of his interviews about his symphony, and he said he didn't write the development section, and he substituted with other way of transforming the idea of his melodies from the exposition section. So I mean, any composer should be aware of the changes, that when you said sonata, okay, sonata belongs to which era? You want it in the classical style or your own style, but you have enough knowledge to distinguish between these changes, which happens for any kind of form.
All right. Can I ask you this question?
Yeah.
When you're making a piece, do you work on the name of it, or do you want to work on the music first? How would you like to tackle this?
Yeah, this is a controversial issue. I think most of composers, they are think in the music first. Then they choose the title which suit. But maybe some people try to choose a title and then push themselves to write something that suit this name.
All right.
It doesn't matter. Whatever you choose. It's important at the end how the music will look, how the people will enjoy it or will not enjoy it. Doesn't matter which comes first. But usually I don't choose the name before I start composing. Maybe in the middle, yes, but not before I start.
I see. But if it's a commission work, normally you have to have the name first, right?
Again, it depends on what kind of commission. Sometimes they want for a special occasion, and sometimes they just want a work from you, a kind of participation. So it depends.
I would like to go all the way from the beginning. Who or what introduced you to music? When did you how did you start this musical journey?
Yeah. Actually, my experience, I think, is different from most of the other musicians who studied academically. I mean by this that although like most of the children like music and enjoy listening or dancing the music, and a few of them can play. I wanted to play music from early years, but I encountered a problem in the school when I joined uh, music club, and the teacher asked me, "What kind of instrument do you want to play?" I said, "I want to play violin." He said, "Okay,"
Oh,
and he brought me a violin, and I tried to to he tried to teach me how to hold the bow and the violin. But within 1 minute, he said, "Your chin is too small. It doesn't fit to the violin." So this was a big disappointment that taught me to never try to.
oh,
And so this is, I think, any music teacher should not say like this. Later on, I discovered that he should give me a smaller violin,
yeah,
which
that's
is
true.
suits the children, not giving me his violin. So the problem is not my chin, it is his violin. So that's why I stopped learning music. But after I finished the high school, I felt again that I have a passion to music, and that's why I started to learn music in a private music institute that just opened at that time. There was no music institute before that, and I learned for a few months guitar, then I switched to piano, and then a poet of a friend of mine, he suggested to study music more professionally and academically, and I went to Cairo to study at 19 years old. It was there difficult because all my colleagues was younger than me, 5 to 6 years. I feel old compared with them. And, not that only, and they learned the music before me. It was something, a kind of challenge for me to prove and to compete with students who started before me. But by years, I succeeded to be one of them and respect uh, uh, the, how I developed my skills and how I was serious to learn music and to compensate what I missed before I joined Cairo Conservatoire. It was difficult, but I think anybody can start at this age, but you can't start with an instrument. You can't start learning violin at 19, I think. It would be so difficult, or 20 years. I think, but you can, for composing, you can start at this age. For wind instrument or brass instrument, you can start at this. This is my experience and how I started learning this.
Thank you for that. And as you have said, there are a lot of challenges along the way to become a musician. So I would like to ask your personal advice to how would how would someone overcome these obstacles or these hardships?
I think most of the musicians, not just the composer, uh, will encounter obstacles, difficulties. But maybe the composer, I think, more encounter. I think first thing, any composer should be patient, and the other thing, and he should be passionate enough to music. He dedicate himself to music. He spent enough time, not just composing. Uh, 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 sometimes I'm surprised that there are some composers, they don't listen to other composers. They don't listen to rich uh, legacy of compositions by European like Beethoven, Wagner, Stravinsky, Ligeti, Benricky, Elliot Carter, many composers. You have to specify daily time to listen just to music and also reading the score and try to create your own style. You just not try, even if you like composer, not try to imitate his way of composing. you can learn from him, but not to be a copy of other composers. You should be your own. As one day, the American composer George Crumb mentioned that each composer has to, he should have his own DNA.
Yes, that's
Otherwise,
important.
other music.
That's important. And also, you have mentioned that you have learned violin, piano, and I've seen in the pictures you actually learned some woodwind instruments, right?
Yes, I know. I haven't played violin since that. I haven't. Also, I wrote many pieces for violin, but I think beautiful instrument, but difficult to. But yes, the picture you mentioned, I started to study bassoon,
Oh,
which is a
okay.
piece instrument, and then I also at the same time I was studying bassoon and composition, but I felt that time I can't manage to study both of them. I have to dedicate myself for one of them. So I left the bassoon and continue learning composition.
So which one was your, let's say, most favorite instrument? Which one do you like the most? Is there one? Is there a favorite?
Difficult, but I think every instrument has
Yes,
uh,
they have their own
uh,
special.
uh, personality. This is the bassoon, yeah. This is in 1985. I still preparing for my exam. In I think I like this bassoon. I wrote an instrument, one notes CD, a piece for bassoon and piano. I like also oboe, clarinet. All the instruments is beautiful, but I think still the violin, that uh, rich, soft, expressive sound that difficult for other instruments to compete with. I think this is my maybe cello, yes, cello and violin, both of them are
Yes,
great
I
instruments.
agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
All right, and I would like to move on to another topic. It's about regarding classical music to youngsters, because I feel like they they think that classical music is boring or it's dull. So, what do you think? Are there any ways to improve the image or to make it more attractive to others?
I understand this. I know there are many people, not just nowadays, not just these days. I think long time ago and it will still with us for many years. That classical music, whatever modern or romantic or classic style, all the classic music is not available for one who want to listen from the first time and understand it and like it. Sometimes I call it, it's not like love from the first sight. This you have to spend enough time. Sometimes I have my own experience when I was grade 12. I heard that there is a symphony, the fifth symphony for Beethoven, and it is the best symphony in the world. So I said, okay, I will try to listen to this symphony. From the 2 minutes, I couldn't finish it, and I stopped. Then I told myself, how come? Said in the TV, and at that time, anything on TV, we believe it. Usually, anything since it's announced on the TV or radio or book must be a Bible. This is something you can't say wrong. So I give myself a chance and listen to music the second day. And again, just 3 minutes. And within 1 week, every time I listen, and then I love it so much.
Mm,
Finish the first movement, and I try to the second. I finish the whole symphony, the four movements, and I enjoyed. And since then, I learned a lesson that you have to give a time and a chance for any work to make a kind of relationship between you and the work. It is a relationship, it's not just listen
that's true. That's true.
negatively. So this is what I think people, and this actually, it's not a problem with music. It is also in poetry. It is also in fine arts, in ballet, opera, and any kind of art, serious art.
Okay, and this is also something else regarding modern music and the past, which is, in your opinion, is there any change to the way that modern music is composed, as was how music in the past was composed? Do you think is there any change?
Yeah, there's a big change. Actually, the change is not just now 21st century. Change happened uh, from classical era comparing with Baroque and Romantic comparing with the classical. But the crucial change was, I think, in the beginning of the 20th century. It comes with The Rite of the Spring by Igor Stravinsky, which people didn't like and became angry. What kind of music you are performing? And since this work, composer became more brave to write something what they think is different and new. And I think the art should be always any artist, not just a composer. We should looking for something to add, something. When I mean add something new, not just to write a work and call it sonata. That's not enough. Should be different. When I listen, oh, this belongs to this composer, and this work belongs to this other composer, but not something similar. So I think we're always going to find something new, and only the talented composer who can add something different.
Okay, thank you. After this, we will be moving on to the Q&A section. So I would like to ask the audience if you have any questions. You can just if you're on YouTube, you can just type down your questions in the Q&A or in the comments. But if you are here on Zoom, then I would like to ask you to put it down in the Q&A section. All right, Mr. Aljawder, I would like to ask you regarding the JPO's outreach program, which is to provide music education for all children. May I know your thoughts on these efforts?
I think what you are doing is trying to send a beautiful message about the music. Here I am in Bahrain, trying, speaking to you all the way in Malaysia. As a composer and passion to music, I think what you are doing is very important. It is uniting not just composer and the musicians, uniting even the people from all over the world. This effort, I think, is embodying this vision as it's like a platform for everybody that can share and exchange his experience with others. So I'm happy to be part of this by inviting me today, and wish you all the luck in this effort.
Thank you very much, and I fully agree with you. So let's move on to the Q&A section. Oh, we have a question here. What was one of your favorite memories in your musical career?
Favorite memories, yeah. You know, when you, as a composer, I mean, when a piece of you played perfectly, and the people appreciate this, you feel happy as a composer, because before introduce your music to the audience, you are still not sure what are you, if you are succeeded in this piece or not. So this happened to me in occasion in Bahrain, especially in my country. There are no many people appreciate classical music, but they surprised me, many of them, that they enjoyed one of my pieces. And this thing encouraged me to continue composing.
All right, that's one question down. Okay. All right. Hi, may I know what instruments you can play? So this question is divided into two parts. So firstly is what instruments can you play? And then second part is do you favor any particular instruments when you compose?
I play piano, uh, and it helps, of course. I think piano is the better instrument for any composer because you can play not just single melody, you can play harmony, you can play melody with harmony, you can find to experience different ideas. You can use your both hands, right and left. So piano is very good instrument for composing. What I like, I think most of the composers, even if they prefer instruments, they try to write for different instruments because to experience a new sound, to convey different messages, but to limit yourself with one instrument, I think this is uh, unhelpful.
All right. Since we are talking about instruments, may I ask you if are there any traditional instruments from your country?
Yeah, there are too many
Can you
beautiful
introduce some of them?
instruments.
Can you please introduce some of them?
What is
Can you please?
produced by,
Yeah.
you mean, I'm not playing traditional instruments, but I wrote for it oud. We call it oud. They spell it OUD, sometimes AUD. But oud is very old instruments and got a very intimate sound. It is a string instrument, of course. It is a little similar to the lute, the English old lute. Uh, and I wrote a piece for this instrument, and still I'd love to write for this.
And have you actually composed for these instruments? Have you composed for
As
these
I mentioned,
instruments?
yes, I composed for this instrument for oud and orchestra, and I recorded this piece in Cairo. Especially this kind of work, I can't. Most of my works actually I recorded in Cairo, and some of them in Prague, in Czech Republic, and lately in Manchester, in the UK. But this piece for oud and orchestra, I recorded in Cairo because nobody can play oud in Europe, only in Egypt. And but I didn't include it here because there is no enough time to put something for this instrument.
Okay. And would you say that your cultural background influences a lot of your composition?
Indeed, I think what makes you different, especially from other composers from different continents like Europe, Africa, or any other countries, that you should benefit from your environment. Music in Bahrain is very rich with rhythm. We have complex rhythm. Many of the traditional songs they got isorhythm. Isorhythm means that the pattern lasts for more than 32 measure, which is too long. And this rich rhythms, I use some of them in my music, but I don't use it by, at the same by using the same instrument. I use it with piano or with other instrument. I use the idea more than just bringing the same percussion and put it with other instruments. So this is the way, and also from Arab land, we have the maqam, Arabic maqam, and I use it, but freely, not as a traditional way, as I mentioned earlier. This review. So I think it's good for every composer that benefit from his or her environment.
And also, for someone who is not familiar with your country's music, how would you explain it to them? How would you describe it to them?
I think, like many countries, Bahrain, uh, Bahrain, by the way, is a very small island in terms of kilometers. It is about 765 square kilometers. However, in terms of civilization, it harks back to around 5,000 years, where the ancient Delmon was formed. And in Bahrain, people used to work to go to the sea and collect or pick the perils. And this journey would takes about more than 4 months in the summer. They usually have their own songs, very beautiful songs, very good songs. If you write in the YouTube Pearl Divers songs, you will find too many songs reflecting what I am talking about. So, and there is no music in most of our countries, not just Bahrain, Arab land. More of them songs, but of course using instruments, and the instruments usually are percussion. Maybe few of the songs using the oud, which I said oud, similar to some extent to the English lute.
Okay, thank you for that. And we have one question here. What is your definition of good music?
Wow, I think there is no such a definition as a good music, because it's difficult. Even not just a good music. Even if you ask, can you classify music? It's difficult. Can you say this is classic, this is light music? Sometimes and you can't classify music, not just say good or bad. Maybe bad is easy to say music is bad. But good music, I think it depends to the background for every listener. But to me, it's good music. As I studied music academically, my taste is different. But for normal people, I think depends on their culture and how what kind of music he used to listen from his childhood, his or her childhood.
Then what is the type of music do you like, or what kind of style do you personally like for you yourself? What do you like?
Yeah, this I can answer. I like to listen to classic music, especially Beethoven. I like to listen to music to Market, Schubert, Wagner. I like to listen to modern music, starting from Claude Debussy, Ravel, Stravinsky, some of Schoenberg, but more in Alban and River. I like music by Ligeti, Bartok. I like Bartok so much. Elliot Carter, and many composers I like to listen. And I like another style, apart from classical music, I like to listen to jazz music. I love jazz music. I think it's inspiring. And I think it needs to be respected more by the classical composer. So this is what I listen. Of course, I listen to Arabic music as well. Traditional Arabic music, I love to listen to. I think this is most of the things I like.
All right. And there's this question that says, in this pandemic time, what are the obstacles you are facing, and do you see any opportunities in these strange times?
Yes, I think now this interview you are making, I think this is because of pandemic. People are creating something new, inventing something new, which is, and this is a message that prove that human being never surrender to any obstacle. I think now there are too many music activities have been held through virtual activities. But I hope this is just temporary. I still prefer people go to the concert, to the theater, not just listening through the PC or iPad or iPhone or Samsung, whatever.
And is there anything that you'll be working on, or is there a goal or a project that you are working on during this time?
Yeah, I am now. I just finished a book about
Hmm.
my experience directing music in Bahrain International Music Festival, and also I'm working in a book about the free forms, which we talked already about it. And I am now working on the new CD. It is for female voice and piano. And also I have other projects I'm thinking about.
Okay, I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, and we have this question. Do you think classical music will be appreciated more in the future?
Uh, I'm not sure. It depends to different factors, starting from the school, how they are teaching music. From my own perspective, teaching music in schools is not supposed to teach all the students to learn how to play. And, in fact, we should teach them how to appreciate music, how to listen, how can we distinguish good music from bad music. If we work in schools like this, I think this will help, and that too many people will appreciate classical music.
Okay. Can I ask you, is composing your full-time job?
Unfortunately, not for everybody. For very limited list, most of the composers, and one of them, I work another job and compose for part time. And this is for a long time happening for most of the composers, unfortunately.
Uh, do you like it? Do you like composing?
Yes, but before I go to this, I am speaking about the classical composer, not the
Mm.
songs composer. Yes, I like composing because you are to create something new belongs to you. I think this is something real good thing that you can do it, and you know that not everybody can do. Well, it's like a painter when he draw a painting. He's happy because he feels that he made something not everybody can do. I think this is good feelings for most of the company. I think so.
And it was said in your bio that you also teach music. Am I right?
Yes, yes. I taught music at the University of Bahrain, but it was not for professional. I mean, it was not for students for music. It is an elective course. So, but it was a very good opportunity for me to teach music for many musicians, and how I taught them how to read music, how to listen, how to can write music, uh, and I give them some and how to distinguish between instruments. They know at the end of the course they can distinguish between oboe and flute and clarinet and violin and cello, not just by picture, also by listening to the sound of these instruments. I give them a brief about a few composers like Beethoven, Schubert, and other composers. So for one course, last for only about 3 months, I think it was a good way to encourage students at this age to listen and appreciate this. And by the way, many of them they went later on to other music institutes to learn trained music because they love the music through attending my course.
May I know how regular are classical music performances in Bahrain?
Before pandemic, you know,
Oh,
before
uh,
and before
let's. Oh, sorry.
activities in Bahrain, music activities. Are you asking in Bahrain how many?
Yes. I'm more specifically, classical music.
Yes, we have a theater or like something like opera house. They are usually organizing classical music, even opera, and they invited very famous performers like Placido Domingo. Before a few years, he came to Bahrain and sang, sang some songs. And there are orchestras from Europe, from Asia, from Africa. Uh, Too many activities are happening in Bahrain, especially before the pandemic.
So I would like to ask your personal opinion is what do you think should be done in order to raise that level of classical music in Bahrain?
The most important thing is to form musical institute.
Yes.
But unfortunately, still we don't have uh, musical institute, and this still am. I have tried, by the way, and we made music institute while I was working with the Ministry of Culture, and only we worked for just 2 years, and unfortunately they said no, no need. They closed the music institute. So it is a long story, but the most important is that we have a musical institute, but it is private for anyone who can learn, and he can come anytime, any month, and stop and come because it is private. But I mean academic one, formal institute still we don't have. We don't have conservatoire.
And just now we were talking about those classical music, those activities. Are they usually supported by the government or more from the private sectors?
Neither by by government or by the private sectors. Maybe few composers or musicians, more than composers, have support from private sector, but not
Mm.
composers. Uh, that's why most of my music I pay by myself to record my music without any support. So this costs too much, and that's why most of my works are for duet, two instrument or solo instrument, something like this, because I can't pay for full orchestra. I have clarinet, concerto clarinet, but I can't record this because it will cost me too much.
Could I ask you what is the difference between Arabic music and let's say Western music? What is the main difference between these two?
Yeah, there's too many differences. One of them is the form. Uh, we have sonata form, symphony, and other forms, but we have mashup, we have something longer, something different form. That's what we call it in Arabic. We have different instruments like nai, it is a wood instrument, qanun, rather than we don't have wood instrument. We have makam, it's different scale, different mode than the Western scale, major and minor. And we have the rich uh, music sentence that make us different than Western music. And we don't have this long uh, structure like symphony. Usually, most of our pieces last for from 4 to 10, but not like symphonies, which is sometimes 45 minutes or more. Yes. So there are too many differences. And the way also of playing and the dynamics. We don't have the dynamics in classical music, piano, forte, crescendo, decrescendo. And our music, it depends on the musician more. It gives a free for the musician when he can play quietly, when the singer is singing, and when he can play loudly when it is just music. Something like that.
Interesting. And now we have come to the end of our program. Please do check the link at our Facebook page to tune in. And if you want to watch the program again, you can go to our YouTube channel. So thank you everyone for your questions, and I hope you got the answer you wanted. Before we end, let us join our hearts in prayer to end tonight's program. Please pray in whatever faith you believe in for this pandemic. So I will start the prayer now. Father Lord, we commit this situation into your hands. We pray that you protect each and every one of us. No matter who we are, Lord, I pray that you protect us. And I pray that by your grace, you will improve the situation. Thank you. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. All right. It was my pleasure speaking with you, Mr. Aljawder. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you,
Thank
and
you.